I was down at Indiana University Bloomington and had just finished up 6 years of undergrad and had to make a life-defining choice. Was I going to go work for a company and I had great programming skills and they were willing to pay me, a very large salary coming straight out of school, versus going into an academic environment, MIT's artificial intelligence lab, and making virtually nothing, barely enough to survive and pay rent in Boston, and do that for a couple of years, but be able to rub elbows with the best of the best in the computer and artificial intelligence worlds, and hang out in Cambridge, with Harvard and MIT faculty and students. So I had to make that choice, and it truly was a defining choice, and a recommendation I would make to anybody is get yourself into the environment where you can figure out what you want to do and who you want to be, and do that early. It isn't going to happen in your 50s, it's going to happen in your early 20s. If I hadn't done the artificial intelligence lab and started the voicemail company across the street, I wouldn't be where I am today, and the world wouldn't have this version of voicemail that's now in the hands of, some say, close to 2 billion people. And maybe it's my stature. I'm 6'6" and 250 pounds, but people say I'm intimidating, and I don't mean to be. And so, here at Cha-Cha and other companies that I'm involved with, I like to see the best ideas bubble up, and if I'm seen as an intimidating force, that's not at all what I want, because that doesn't help the best ideas bubble up to the top, and so if that were one perception I'd like to change, is I'm not intimidating. So, I wasn't really cut out to play sports. I was the consummate nerd. I had the taped up glasses, and then I moved to another school, and the first thing they notice is I'm the tallest kid in school. It took them a year to convince me to play at all, so I started in the 8th grade, and then in the 9th grade I started to get a little bit of coordination, and by 10th grade, I was dunking it and doing pretty well. The number one star in the country, high school basketball star in the country, was at a high school in Louisville, Kentucky, where I was. And the number 2 guy in the country was on the same team. But the really interesting thing that I learned was, what teamwork was all about. Because I was, mostly just operating on my own behalf as an individual before that. And I really learned about team dynamics on my own team, and then watching, this other team with the number 1 and number 2 players in the country playing on the same team. And they obviously got to state, championship game. And they're playing against another team. Ballard had a guy named Jeff Lamp on the team. And that team played differently. Instead of number 1, number 2 guy, touching the ball on every play and operating as 2 individuals, you had this other team that was playing as a team and passing it around and making plays. And guess who won state? The other team. And it taught me a huge lesson in what it meant to pull a team together and resonate, that you could beat anybody. Yeah, I've had plenty of those, and fortunately I've been able to cut off the ideas in many cases early enough where not too many millions of dollars got spent. But one example of that is I just thought for sure in the mid-90s that this concept of what I called an entertainment furnace, where all of your bits and bytes for movies and music and home videos and photos and all of that stuff would just be in a dishwasher-sized box in your home, and you'd store all those bits and then be able to serve them out to your TV sets and stereos and all that. And this was in the mid-90s, and so that's mostly true when you look at things like Netflix and Roku and Amazon On Demand. So it's happening, 15, 16 years later, but I was way early, and I took all the arrows that pioneers take because it was too early. Millions, tens of millions, and I wasn't the only one. There were top VCs in the country that invested in that too. So I think we all believed it was the right thing, and ultimately it has proved out to be the right thing, but our timing was off.